Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World episode 178. I'm your host John Jordan. Don't forget to check out my daily email about blockchain gaming. You can find that at gamestx.substack.com. In today's episode I'm talking to Justin Gary, who is the CEO of Stoneblade Entertainment. Justin has been in the world of trading card games and deck building games all his career. Started out playing Magic at a very high level and then became a game designer. We're talking specifically in the episode about his new game, which is SolForge Fusion. That game's actually been out as a Web2 game in early access on Steam for a number of months, but now the blockchain elements are going live. So that gives players the ability to mint out their decks as NFTs. Also, there is a token as well. So we're talking a little bit about trading card games, deck building games, why SolForge Fusion might be a game for someone like me who's not really into that genre. But more specifically, we're talking about why Justin is adding blockchain, which obviously has some sort of connotations for some players. And it's interesting, I think, that the game has been designed to cover quite a wide range of audiences. So you can play it as a physical game, printing out the cards, the decks. You also play it just as a Web2 game, as a digital game, and also if people are interested, they can play it as with the Web3 elements. So it's designed that people sort of choose what they want to do. So it's interesting from that point of view to sort of talk to someone who isn't sort of heavily into the sort of crypto blockchain sector, but is just really into a certain type of game and sees blockchain as an interesting enabling technology for that game type. So I hope you enjoy the show. Don't forget, every week putting out new episodes, so do subscribe, don't miss out. But on to the show. Hello everybody, and very pleased on today's show I have Justin Gary, who's the CEO of Stoneblade Entertainment. How's it going, Justin?
It's going great to be here.
Good. So the first question we usually ask is to get a bit of a feeling for who you are. We're going to talk about obviously blockchain games and talk about SolForge Fusion, lots of F's in there. So that's the game you've been working on, and the game you've announced is going to have blockchain elements. So that's the focus. But you have quite a long history, so it'd be good to get that context before we kick into the game.
Yeah, I love giving some context here because it is a long narrative that I'll condense to get us to here. I've been working on SolForge, the original version of SolForge into SolForge Fusion for 13 years. Prior to that, I got into the gaming world as a Magic the Gathering U.S. national champion. I was the youngest champion when I was 17 years old. I paid my way through college playing Magic, traveling around the world, transformed my life. Eventually, after an ill-advised stint at law school, I dropped out and moved across the country to become a game designer. And I started working on games for Marvel, DC, World of Warcraft, a whole variety of really great brands before starting my own company. And I launched a deck building game called Ascension, which was a big hit. It's now available on mobile devices and PC, and even a virtual reality version, believe it or not. Then I got an opportunity because of that game. I went to a developer conference in 2011, and I got to there was Richard Garfield, the creator of Magic the Gathering, was giving a talk at the conference. So of course I'm going to go listen to Richard Garfield, the master of the whole thing. I'm going to have. So I listened to his talk, taking notes frantically. And then at the end of the talk, there's a Q&A. And somebody asks him, hey, what's your favorite game right now? And he says, Ascension, my game. And I literally jump up in the back of the room like, woohoo, like a kid, and everybody laughs. But it gave me my opportunity. I was able to go and go talk to him. And I talked to him after his speech. And basically we talked for 3 hours. And we were in sync on exactly the game we wanted to make. And that game was the original version of SolForge, which was one of the first digital trading card games, period. It was the first one that was designed to be native before, Magic Arena or Hearthstone or anything like that, right? We were the first. And then now we've been able to reimagine that game and the new version of SolForge Fusion, which is what we're calling the world's first hybrid deck game, which is a game that exists on tabletop. It exists in Web 2. And it now is existing in Web 3. So you can have physical, algorithmically generated, one-of-a-kind decks that are all printed just for you, and then you can scan those decks into an online account, and then you can turn those decks into NFTs and trade them and sell them and do everything you would. So you have a real true digital ownership and physical ownership merged in a way that's never been done before. And that's the short-ish version of the narrative that gets us to here.
I'm sure it could go a lot deeper than that. I guess before we plunge in, obviously what you've spoken about there is all trading card games. So obviously there's lots of different genres out there. Trading card games are a genre that are much loved. I guess I would call them niche in a way. They appeal very strongly to a certain group of people. They don't necessarily always go enormously widely. But why does that appeal particularly to you? Is that sort of the way your brain works? What is it that really you basically you had your
it's a
career
great question.
in that area?
It's a great question. I think there's something really magical about the trading card game genre, and also I'll point out that there are some subtle differences between like Ascension, which is a deck building game where it's not trading collectible cards, but you're building a game experience in there, and then SolForge Fusion, which is a hybrid game where you are collecting the cards, but they're not just like the same cards that everybody has. Your deck is truly unique. But your question's a good one because it gets at the underlying theme of like what's exciting about this. And to me, the difference between a game like a trading card game or a hybrid game like SolForge Fusion is that you get to create the experience in addition to playing the game. Right. So you can have it's not going to be that we open this box and we all are playing the exact same game. I play Monopoly. It's the same damn game every time. I play playing Monopoly, but with a trading card game, I get to build the deck I want. I get to represent myself by saying, okay, cool, I'm going to build this deck with all elves, or I'm going to build a deck that tries this strategy out, or I'm going to do these things. And then I get this magic of discovery when I see the new cards and I see the new things that my opponents bring to the table that maybe I never saw before. And honestly, in a sense, what I've tried to do with SolForge Fusion is recreate the magic that I felt, excuse the pun, from my early days of playing Magic, right? When I would open up a pack of cards and I would see cards I'd never seen before. And nowadays that magic, that's gone, right? Like every spoiler is out on the internet before the set's released. Every best deck is determined within like a week and they're all posted online and all shared. But with SolForge Fusion, that's not possible because every single pack you open is unique just to you. No one will ever have the same deck as you, and you have to make the strategies with what you have. And so you get that discovery all the time, and you get that strategy and like that personality that you get to bring forth all the time. And so that heart of that experience, I think, is what drew me to create trading card games in the first place, and what Richard and I have tried to kind of reimagine and bring into the modern era with SolForge Fusion.
Okay. So, and you've mentioned the term already, and it's sort of also used in your press release. So, I guess when you say algorithmically generated decks, that's sort of that's what you're encapsulating in what that explanation you've just said. So, can you maybe go into just a little bit more detail for noobs like me who are sort of skating on the sort of definition there, sort of can see what you're seeing, but maybe just go, what is an algorithmically generated? So, how does that uniqueness get created?
Yeah, so imagine if in a normal trading card game, let's say you have a typical set of cards that would be like 300 cards in a set. Yeah. Or over the course of a deck, Magic's been around for 30 years and there's like 30,000 cards or so, right? And what you do is you take those set of cards and then you build the deck that you want out of that. Say it's a 60 card deck or a 30 card deck or whatever it is, right? So you take the set of cards that exist, you build the deck you want, and then you play. That's what a trading card game is. With an algorithmically generated game like SolForge Fusion, we build the deck of cards for you, and we algorithmically create those cards. So in our very first set alone, we already had more cards than Magic had in 30 years. And we've had 3 card releases, so we're way, way beyond them now. And we have what we like to say is there's more deck permutations than there are atoms in the universe. Okay. And so you will never have the same deck twice. So we give you a deck of cards, and the way you customize your deck is unlike in a traditional trading card game where you take a set of, say, 300 and you pick the 60, and most often you're just going to copy what other people did. Here, you're going to take any of the 2 decks we give you, shuffle them together, and you're ready to go. So you still get to customize, but you can't copy. And so that's the difference of we used technology that didn't even exist a decade ago to be able to create these unique concepts and these unique cards. It's the fun of collectible games without all the work of having to like build a custom deck out of 60 cards or look up the exact thing online. You just find the ones you have, smash them together, and you're good to go.
Mm-hmm. So that sort of, I guess, means that there's just much more sort of possibilities because no one can sort of like Gronk, this is how I play it. So every time you play the game, you sort of like you have to have sort of broad skills, but there's surprise there because you're just surprising your deck and certainly surprising I guess the opponent's deck.
Yeah, and it's really fun to play. So even let's set aside all the crazy cool technology and algorithmic generated and Web3, right? Set that aside for a second. Let's just talk about the basic gameplay itself, right? Because if you're just playing the game itself, there's actually just a really fun, simple experience. You draw a hand of 5 cards. You and your opponent alternate playing cards. Creatures get played in the lanes. There's 5 lanes. At the end of the turn, creatures attack whatever's across from them. They'll either kill each other, or if there's nothing across them, they do damage to the opponent. That's pretty standard stuff for a TCG type of game. What's interesting is that whenever you play a card, that card levels up. And the leveled up version goes into your discard pile, and then every 3 turns you shuffle your deck. And so when you play cards in this game, there's no mana, there's no having costings to the cards. They're all balanced, and they evolve through play, which is really fun. And so it lets us do cool card designs. Like, for example, one of my favorites is a Scorchmane Dragon, which starts off, the level 1 version of the dragon is just an egg. I mean, it's literally a terrible, terrible card.
Yeah.
But then level 2 is like a little whelp, and it's pretty good. But if you can play it all the way to level 3, now it's a giant fire-breathing monster that wipes the board, right? And it's super cool, and it's all like, tells this cool story. As the card evolves, it balances the game because you know you've had to survive long enough to play this bad level 1 card. It creates this really great experience, and that's like, so you actually discover your game, your own deck. Even just playing your own deck over and over again, you'll learn a lot, because which cards you choose to play early will choose which cards are available to you later. And so there's just this fun experience. And it's the kind of thing I've joked about. Like, even if you took out all the crazy fun technology stuff, you could just shuffle 2 decks together and play and have a great time with SolForge Fusion. And so that was really the important part for us, is that the heart of it is a great game, and then all of the, kind of bells and whistles and Web3, and I'm sure we'll get into all this stuff, but like, why does that stuff exist? It has to serve the gameplay experience, or else it's not going to work.
Yeah. Do you think? Well, I guess I probably know the answer to this, but maybe you can elaborate on it. Does this make? Because as I've said before, I think sort of trading card games or deck builders, whatever, tend to be quite niche. And they appeal to a certain person, but it's very, when I play, on a sort of very mundane example, when I start playing Hearthstone, I sort of get into it, it's a bit interesting, and then suddenly I'm sort of like overwhelmed by just like, there's so many cards, I'm getting bashed all the time. And does this make it easier for me as a newbie, or does it not?
That's the idea, right?
It's a good idea, yeah.
So there's some nuances to the answer to that question, right? The one level, the goal is, yes, like, you don't have to look at the whole set of cards and figure out which ones to build. You just pick any 2 decks that seem appealing to you, shuffle them together and play. You can just play, right? Now, is this game still going to be very skill testing? And like, if you're playing online against the best players, are you still going to get stomped if you're not good? Yeah, you are, man. Like, it's a skill testing game, but. Then we also do a couple of things to make the game more fun for people like you who maybe want to dabble and have a good time with it, but don't necessarily want to go swimming with the sharks right away. We actually created an algorithmically generated campaign mode inside the game, so you can actually take your decks and battle against bosses, gain XP and level up your deck, get custom upgrades and powers, and have this whole experience that's like very deep and very evolved, and not ever worry about, going and getting beaten by the, players like me out there that are out there to try to crush you with their best decks or whatever, right? So we put a lot of thought into trying to make a game that appeals very widely. In addition, every single player gets what we call phantom decks, which we give you like new decks that refresh every month into your account, so you get the experience of playing with new stuff, trying out new strategies, and we're working on our roadmap is to have what we're calling like phantom deck like queues, where you'll be able to just battle against people. So everybody's trying out new decks all the time. It's constantly refreshing. So you get a lot more of that experience of like, not just this, okay, this is my best deck. This is what I want to play all the time. I'm going to try new stuff and explore it. So we've tried to build a, kind of a wide tent, if you will, that will appeal to people who want to play and just have a cool solo experience and discover that. The people who are super competitive, that we have something for that. And we also have really cool stuff, which is what we call our storyline events. And we do storyline events both online and at events, and like conventions, where you will influence the lore of the world. And if you go to solforgefusion.com/story, we have all the stories, including some cool animated videos, and you can see where players would change the course of the world, which would change which cards show up in future sets. And we have our writers write a custom story that gets permanently connected to the NFT of your deck. So your deck now has the lore status to it, and you can like evolve and be a part of our world. And so for some people, they hear that and they're like, that's the coolest thing ever. And for other people, like, I don't care about that at all. That's not my thing. So what's nice is, like, again, that ability to have a unique one-of-one NFT that tracks like not only your tournament performance and ownership, but also like things like these storyline stuff. I think it's just one of the really cool promises of Web3 that we're excited to explore.
Good. That's a good segue. So we've got some, I guess, idea in our heads, probably maybe not fully formed, but some idea of what you're doing innovative in this genre, and some idea of sort of how the game is going to work for smart players and not so smart players. But now we talked about NFTs. So how were NFTs always there from the start? Was that something that came in? Were you into crypto so that you sort of were, that was an easier sort of decision for you? Because obviously, as everyone knows, some people really love it, sort of crypto and NFTs. They tend to be very crypto people, and like certain types of games. Gamers in general have not been very keen. And there's been a lot of sort of these sort of trading card games in blockchain. One, because those games in some level are easier to make, and obviously cards and NFTs ownership. People have always argued sort of Magic was the original physical cards were NFTs in some degree. So you're sort of measuring that. Anyway, how did NFTs come into the sort of design space?
Yeah, so I've been interested in blockchain technology for quite a while now, at least since 2017, 2018. I actually designed a blockchain game called Block Brawlers just for fun with some friends of mine as a kind of concept, right? The technology was super early back then, so it was a very simplistic game. But I think it's really interesting. And I'm a look, I'm a gamer first, right? As I mentioned, I've been, making a living in gaming for 25 years. I love it. All my best friends and relationships I've made through gaming. But I'm also a true believer in what the blockchain can promise for the future, right? I think that the ability to create systems that allow communities to come together, that allow people to collaborate and work together and share resources in ways that are fair and don't require a middleman and having trust in a centralized authority. I think that is the future, and I'm very excited because I think gaming is a kind of easy petri dish, if you will, like to be able to experiment with different ways of incentivizing, different ways of organizing people. So I do think that's there. And so there was definitely talk of and consideration of blockchain and using NFTs from the beginning. It was not going to be a definitive. It was one of the things we were looking at along with a lot of other things. And frankly, it just comes down to what serves the players best, right? I started researching, what would it take if I wanted to provide all the services that we're doing now through Solana, being player ownership and trading and selling and having that infrastructure and having all of that done. It would have, as a developer, it would have cost me way more, and I would have been able to provide way less services to way less of a community than using the technology that already exists on blockchain. So as a developer, there was a clear question of like, what can I build? How can I offer more to my players? And then as a player, I was thinking, what would I want? And I would want to have full and complete true ownership of my game. And over the long term, not only do I want to allow people to trade and sell and buy their own, their decks as they want, but I want to be able to transfer more and more ownership of the community, ownership of the decisions that get made to the players themselves. And so that means, ideally over time, this would be hosted, by the community, and, we'd be able to move more of the activities on chain. We have the largest part of our tokenomics pool is player controlled, is the community controlled pool, which will be doled out as prizes for tournaments or support for streamers right. And I think that those types of decisions are actually best made by the community that's served by it. And so I think over the long term, I think this is something that will serve the community. And it's the main reason that's been the sort of North Star for us from the very beginning.
Okay. So, I guess as far as I'm concerned, I haven't really seen SolForge Fusion sort of promoted as a sort of crypto game or a blockchain game. So has what sort of stage have those features sort of come in, and has your decision as someone who's instigating this game always been reflected by I'm sure there are, with your background and sort of the innovation in the game, some people would have been interested in that just as a game, but the blockchain may have been something that they probably gave you some feedback on that maybe was like what you
some feedback is a polite way to put it, my friend. Yes. So I'll say, look, as you mentioned earlier, right, there's a lot of ill will and distrust of blockchain in the gaming community. And to be perfectly blunt, it is well deserved and earned from the games that existed, right? There was a lot of rug pulls and people who would make a lot of promises and start selling a token and not have a game at all, never have a game, right? And then there were those that had a game, but they would just like shoehorn in NFTs and simplified things where they're just trying to get cash out of the players. And players are smart, man. They're not, they're not stupid. They're gonna wise up, right? Fool me once, shame on you. they don't want to be fooled twice, right? So the idea here is that you need to have something that actually demonstrates real value to the players. And so when we announced that we were going to start doing the Web3 integration and our NFTs for the decks, we got a lot of hatred. We got a lot of review bombing on our Steam page. We got a lot of, my strategy from the beginning was be very upfront, right? Again, I've been in this industry for a long time. I've built a reputation over decades. I'm not about to destroy it or throw it away for some quick buck, right? And so I was doing AMAs. I was active in our Discord. I was posting articles about it. I have my own podcast called Think Like a Game Designer where we talk about design, and I brought people on from the industry. We had deep conversations about it. I took on the role of the player, of the skeptical player, and saying, hey, well, okay, what about this? What about this? Right? And I think by being able to work through that, I was able to allay a lot of the fears that were like not real, right? Like there were people who were like, oh, it's bad for the environment. I'm like, nope, Solana is very good for the environment. It doesn't make any sense. If you do Google searches, you should be okay with this, And but then there were other things like, hey, wait, what about security? Like what happens, if my stuff gets stolen, right? In a traditional Web 2 game, my stuff gets stolen, customer support can make you whole, and that's not necessarily the case here. And so, okay, here's how do we, educate them about security? What things can we do? What things can't we do? How do you opt in and opt out? And that's the other thing was very important. We made it so it is entirely opt-in for players. Like if you want to be a Web 2 player and you don't want to participate in the Web 3 economy, you don't want to participate in turning your decks into NFTs, you do not have to. You can totally play the exact game you want. And the same was true for tabletop players, right? Because again, SolForge Fusion is a tabletop game also. You can play at tabletop. You never have to scan your decks into your online account. You don't have to play a digital game. And if you're a digital game, you don't have to pay attention to the tabletop. You can just buy digital stuff. Right? And we wanted to make sure everybody plays the game they want to play and that each pillar of the game supports each other pillar. And so we put a lot of thought into what will serve the players, what's going to be the sort of least scary, like on-ramp onboarding. And again, with the way we're doing our tokens and our deck collections, like first of all, we're just airdropping the token to everybody, right? Not only just to all of our players, but to people in the Solana community, to players of other games like Axie Infinity and Parallels and a variety of places. We're just giving the token away. So you get a chance to try the game for free, no pressure. Why not, right? And when it comes to the NFTs, the way we built it, like we built the system, we thought about it exactly the way we built the physical part. So if I have a physical deck of SolForge Fusion, if I scan it into my account, it's locked in my account and that's part of my collection and I can play it in tournaments or play it, whatever. If I want to trade it to you, then I unlock it from my account, I hand you the physical deck, you scan it into your account, and you say, no, it's yours. And we did the exact same thing for the NFTs. So you could take your digital deck, you can use the token to mint it into an NFT, you can unlock it from your account, give it to somebody else, they lock it in their account, now it's their deck, right? So it's just, we tried to, like, again, if a lot of games have used NFTs and blockchain in a way that makes no sense whatsoever, this one I think makes perfect sense because they're all one-of-one collectibles. If you want to trade it physically, because there are people who are trading decks right now for SolForge Fusion because the NFT part's only going live. I don't know when this is going to air, but it's going live like at the end of August. Okay. And so assuming this is, it's probably live now by the time this is airing. And so before that, people would just in our Discord post like, hey, I want to trade this deck. Hey, I want to trade this deck. And they would just have to trust each other and like mail decks to each other. And it's like ridiculous, right? Like it's ridiculous. So, but now you can just digitally trade the decks, and then we're going to have technology for next year. We'll hook up the interface, so if you want to actually like print your unique copy of your deck, you can do that too, and just order a print-on-demand service and get your deck made. So we really tried to make the whole thing feel like a integrated, seamless whole between all different aspects of the game in a way that just makes the players' lives better, gives them more true ownership of what they have, and over time will add more and more ownership and control, taking it out of my hands and my team's hands and more into the players' hands.
Cool. And I guess that's sort of when these things sort of start going live and be traded. How have you thought about the financial value? Because I guess that's one of the. I mean, it seems like you're doing it the correct way. One of the big problems is if obviously someone's selling an NFT for the developer selling an NFT for $1,000 and it goes down to $10, and obviously that's an immediate sort of pinch point for the audience. So how have you thought about obviously? These things have value in the game because they are assets in the game. I imagine you don't think they're necessarily all going to be worth thousands and thousands of dollars because
millions, obviously.
but equally over time, you think maybe for some reason they could be maybe just psychological reasons or historic reasons why certain things might be worth more than other ones, even if it's one's worth $1 and one's worth $5. I mean, how have you thought about that?
So first of all, this is the kind of thing that is not in my hands, and I don't want it to be in my hands, right? No. Players choose what they want to value, just like they did with Magic cards, just like they're going to do with SolForge Fusion decks, right? And so the idea here is that like players get to make those decisions. So a couple of things that have happened that I think are really interesting. One, because every deck is unique, it can be a little harder to evaluate than a traditional trading card game. And so what we've done is the individual cards have rarity scores, and we give you a kind of deck rarity score that lets you know like how rare is the probabilities of these decks to help people evaluate the decks. But we're not telling you about the power level. We're not telling you about how you should value it. In fact, what's been really cool is even before the Web3 element launched, there's a fan site I think called SolForge Fusion Decks where they they ranked the decks on power level based on how they perceived it in their own scoring system.
Okay.
And so you can go there and you can log in with your account and plug in your collection, and they'll score your collection for you and have different scorings, right? And then, of course, we have in our tournaments, if your deck succeeds in a tournament, it gains rankings, or it can go from bronze to silver to gold to platinum, and then that's another way you can evaluate decks. So we give you the tools to evaluate decks however you want, and maybe you just want a deck with a bunch of zombies in it because you love zombies, and so that's valuable to you, right? So this is about the players being able to make those decisions, and all we want to do is give them the freedom and give them the information. And that's one of the cool things, because the NFT will track all the information, whether it's a storyline deck or a gold deck or has a super rare rating or whatever. All that stuff is going to be available to the players, and then I want the community to be able to make those decisions of how they want to value their decks.
Mm-hmm. And just probably again another new question. So the cards are not NFTs. When you have a deck, the cards are sort of like locked in to that deck, and it's the deck that's tradable.
Exactly right.
Okay. So would all the cards be totally unique, or no?
No. So many cards will get repeated over and over again, right? So there's, again, because we do algorithmically generate the cards, there's about, like, I forget what the exact number is, but it's somewhere in the order of like 50,000 unique possible cards you could get. Yeah. But you'll see a lot. The common ones will show up all the time, right? So you will see a lot of the same cards. So, because also it would just be, if every card was a one of a kind all the time, it would just be too hard to process. Even like as a player, you just wouldn't understand it. Whereas here, it's like, okay, a Scorchmane Dragon is a Scorchmane Dragon. It's a super rare card. You hope to get it, and it could show up in your deck. But you have to evaluate it in the context of the deck. You can't just evaluate it as its own card, because it's like, oh, okay, cool, Scorchmane Dragon pairs really well, and then maybe I'll pair it with another deck that has a card that lets me level up a card for free. So I could level up the egg part and not have to play it, and then get myself faster to the dragon part, right? And so there'll be different combos and strategies you can do based on how the decks all pair together.
Okay, cool. But I guess that does that. Yeah, that adds a sort of a complexity of sort of how you value these things, because you, in that case, you might have what seems a really terrible deck with one great card in it. So how does that?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's, in a sense, that's one of the coolest things about the game. In a sense, it's one of the harder things when it comes to like how would you choose to value a deck. And honestly, a lot of it comes to, you got to play them, you got to see how they feel, you got to you'll start to see them in tournaments and stuff when how well they perform, and just what are you excited about? Like if you have some favorite cards or favorite combos you're looking for, you're going to search for it. And it's one of the things I really like. Where right now, if you want to trade decks, you have to just like post in our Discord channel and hope for the best. Like, hey, I'm looking for a deck that has these cards in it. Whereas now we'll be able to post everything on Magic Eden. We'll have all the decks, all, you can just search and find the ones you're excited about, and that's way more exciting and way more fun.
Cool, absolutely good. And you said you've currently you got your PC version on Steam. How, obviously Steam doesn't officially, I mean, there seems to be some wiggle room now, but not officially allowed to have NFT enabled games in there. So how are you sort of dealing with that?
Yeah, we've been very, so we're live on PC and Mac now. Yeah. We're planning to move to mobile for next year. Okay. And we've been very attentive to what the rules and regulations are, and we're abiding by those rules. So what will technically, like in the Steam game itself, it doesn't sell, you can't buy NFTs or the tokens or anything like that. You just, on our website, you can connect the NFTs to your account, and then we give you the digital version in the game. And if you take your digital deck in the game, you can mint it to an NFT on the website and then sell it and trade it, whatever. So our website interface allows you to interface with the NFTs and trading, etc. And the in-app in Steam game is just using trade just like any other Web 2 game. I have my decks in my collection. I can buy digital decks like a normal game. Everything just works the way it's, so we're playing in the box, but we're letting people, go to our website to interact with the Web 3 portion of the game.
Yeah. And how have you found it in terms of the review bombing sort of type stuff?
You know what? It was. I think. Honestly, I'm proud of the way that we've handled it, because it happened when we made the first announcement. We instantly got review bombed, right? Because everybody just has their fears, and again, some of them are very legitimate, some of them are misinformed. And then we got in front of it. We just was like, I will answer every question. I will be out there and I will go through it all. And once we did that, they passed. Like within a month. 60 days, somewhere 45 days, that the people who were there to troll us finished trolling and went on to something else. The people who were genuinely concerned and had fears we were able to address. And then the core community that were like, hey, this is a great game, right? And this is the biggest thing. Like, I don't know how many different people you've had on this podcast that have big promises of a game, or have a game. Frankly, I played a lot of Web3 games. Most of them are terrible. Like, you could go play our game for free right now. and play and have a great time. Like I've been doing this for 25 years. Richard's been doing it for like twice as long, right? We've been at this a long time. We know how to make great games. And so we have a great game at the core of it. And nothing that we have done at any point has been towards anything other than making our players' lives better and giving them something that they can be excited about over the long term. And so I think that came through. And again, it's something that we were uniquely positioned to do because of our longstanding reputation. And it's something that, I'm glad we were able to ride that wave of distrust and fear, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But I think, not to say that there won't still be more of that in the future, but I think it's actually, if you look at our reviews now, they're now mostly positive, and if you look at the page, like every single thing the only negative things that have been said are people who were upset about, NFTs or the previous version of SolForge going away or whatever. Like all the current comments about our games, all the recent comments about our games are like, look, it's a great game. It's really fun. And I encourage everybody to try it and see for yourself.
Do you, obviously, NFTs are sort of, having the blockchain is a core sort of long-term part of the game, but equally there's a I guess a counter sort of argument that you would have had a much easier ride if you basically had just done it as a tabletop Web 2 game. It's because you have been sort of quite hands off. You've not raised money off the back of selling NFTs or tokens or anything like that. You sort of haven't had the advantage that some Web 3 games have to use it as a capital raise, a thing. So you're a little bit in the sort of you've taken the heat for being a blockchain enabled game, but you haven't. At this current time, it's hard to see that you've got any of the advantage. Is that just you believe in it, and you think in 10 years' time it's going to. That's when the advantage comes, sort of the community you can build and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I believe it. Well, we're recording this in an interesting window, right? We're recording this right before the launch of the token, and it presumably will be posted after the launch of the token.
Okay.
And so we're going to learn very soon whether or not I'm right or wrong about where this value is going to be, because I think that there's a community of people that will be very passionate about this kind of game, that want to be able to be a part of it. They want to be able to have true ownership. They want to be able to be and see what's available and what's possible. And so I think we are going to see, returns from it as a company. I think we're going to see returns from it in the growth of our player base. Now, look, I could totally be wrong. And believe me, I've been wrong plenty of times in the past, right? If I wanted to do something easy, I would have just made another basic tabletop game, right? We advanced algorithmic printing technology. We're the only game that does this kind of one-to-one correlation between your physical collection and your digital collection, and then bringing it all to Web3. We've brought, SolForge, the original version of SolForge was the first mobile game. That wasn't easy to make for, mobile TCG. This is the first hybrid TCG that lives on all those things. That's not easy to make. If I wanted easy, man, I probably would be retired by now, right? I like to push the boundaries of what technology allows us to do to make great games and build great communities. Like, that's the heart of what I'm passionate about. And so, did I pick the easiest road? Hell no. Am I proud of what we've built and excited to see what we're able to make out of it? Hell yeah.
Cool, good. And just to finish off, you've mentioned a few things. This podcast, let's think, where are we? We're probably going out towards the end of August. So in terms of your roadmap, you've got a token going live, you've got the NFT stuff going live. You mentioned sort of tournaments. What's the sort of plan towards the end of the year in terms of features and community?
Yeah, so we'll be running tournaments both in the app as well as through our Discord with sort of token prizes and a bunch of cool exclusives and exciting things. We have an in-person event because, again, we are physical, so we'll be coming to PAX Unplugged, which will be in Philadelphia in early December. So if you want to come meet me and the team, come there, play and we have storyline events, a bunch of cool celebrations there. We have new content coming, right? These kinds of collectible games live and die on content. So we just released our last set, we called The Last Winter, in June. We're going to have another set of new content, new card releases coming. We have more features that are coming for the game itself, including, I mentioned, we're developing for mobile. We're going to allow the ability for you to print cards on demand and kind of have just pure, things you just got as a digital asset can be turned into physical assets. We're working on leaderboards and more advanced kind of encounters and cool stuff that can happen in the campaign mode for those that don't want to necessarily play against other players but want to have this cool adventure experience. There's a lot of awesome things on the roadmap. We have like cool cosmetics and badges and prizes and achievements and all that sort of stuff that's not in the game yet that we're excited to get in the game. So massive roadmap. And again, this is one of the things where I love having people be involved, right? We originally kind of crowdfunded this game a long time ago. We have had the community involved in our Discord and helping us to prioritize and make decisions. Now that we are moving into Web3, we'll be able to have our token holders and our NFT holders be a part of that process. So it's really great, and I enjoy being able to develop with the community in parallel as we're building this game. So people, whether or not you want to be a part of the the Web3 aspect of this, which I think is super exciting, you can come to the Discord, have conversations with us, see the roadmap, and see it evolve, and be part of the team that's helping make it come to life.
Cool, lovely. Well, excellent. Thank you very much for your time, Justin.
My pleasure.
And thanks to you for watching, listening to the podcast, however you are consuming. Every week we're putting out new episodes with people who are using this new technology to make fantastic, new and exciting games. So I hope you are subscribed. Don't make sure you don't miss out, and see you next week.